Hi all. These are generally conversations between adults after the children have left the table. The language can be spicy and the subjects can get saucy. So if you're ready, this is the Southern Fork. Unscripted kitchen chats and also studio chats with some of the most interesting voices in the culinary South. I'm Stephanie Burt, a food and beverage writer who travels with her fork to write for a variety of publications, from magazines you might have on your coffee table to the website you love to visit for your favorite recipes. And I'm inviting you to come behind the scenes with me to get to know the people who make this Southern culinary landscape so special. I'm always hungry for the next bite, thirsty for that next sip, and ready for the next conversation. Let's dig in. The Southern Fork is proud to say that once again, the presenting sponsor for Season 8 is Townsend Automotive in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. First off, thanks to so many of you listeners out there who not only decided to purchase a vehicle from this family-owned business in the last 2 years, but also shared with them that it was directly because of their support of this show. That's what community, even in our virtual format, is all about. Second, Townsend Automotive, celebrating 49 years serving West Alabama, has been extending its reach so that you don't even have to be in the Tuscaloosa area to purchase a car from them. Nationwide vehicle delivery service is available for Southern Fork listeners, and it's something that makes buying just the right new or certified pre-owned vehicle even easier. Visit townsendhonda.com for current inventory. Or, of course, if you're in West Alabama, stop in. Townsend Automotive always salutes local entrepreneurs, from restaurateurs to podcasters, and they welcome you to be part of a community that does the same. Sam Fore is a first-generation Sri Lankan-American chef from Lexington, Kentucky. And she is a force in what it means to be cooking in America right now. She started her pop-up Tuk Tuk Sri Lankan Bites in 2016 after brunches in her home outgrew her dining room. Her pop-ups are one of the few representations of Sri Lankan cuisine in the U.S. and are a reflection of her first-generation upbringing in the American South. Her dishes include her spin on Southern classics, think fried chicken, as well as new riffs on her families, and her work has been featured in multiple national publications, including the cover of Food and Wine magazine in 2018. In 2020, she was selected as one of Southern Living's Cooks of the Year, and this year, Sam has been honored by the James Beard Foundation as a semi-finalist for Best Chef Southeast. Tuk Tuk Snack Shop, her first brick-and-mortar restaurant, is slated to open in Lexington by fall 2023. Welcome to the Southern Fork.
I'm so excited to be here.
Thank you. Who knew that a hug at Atlanta Food and Wine would lead to this moment?
This is the best part. Now we're all back in summer camp mode. We're seeing all our pals, and even if it's just a hug, it's the best thing ever.
That's right. We're sitting here embedded deep into Charleston Wine and Food, and I'm so grateful to the Fulton Lane Inn for letting me have this quiet space to record and spend time with you today. But first, congratulations.
Oh, thank you.
It's kind of a big deal.
I know, it's still kind of becoming reality for me. I'm just like, oh yeah, thanks. Like, it's never something that I've ever expected. Mm-hmm. And so right now I'm just kind of floating through and hitting a bunch of beautiful surprises.
Love.
Yeah.
Well, I have known you on the periphery for a while, but one thing,
years now.
Yeah, but one thing that I've been interested in from the beginning is, number one, you're in Kentucky.
Yes.
And you're Sri Lankan.
Yes.
So there's a lot of story there. But the idea of your creativity, because you are building something out of nothing. So I wanted to go back and ask you about being a creative professional before you were a chef, and then how you knew that food was your medium for creativity. Because it's a means of expression.
Oh, absolutely.
So you had to figure out what you wanted to express through some other medium, right? And then you realized, oh, I can use food to do that.
It's figuring out what you want to express, and also figuring out where you cannot express who you are and your way of doing things. And, I was in a number of industries. I jumped from music to advertising to tech. And, the food industry did not seem like it was something that was going to be in my cards, if you will. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And my creativity landed in the kitchen when I was entertaining guests. And before that, I'd be doing art projects, and I was working with music and whatnot. But I was always in some sort of professional job, whether it was an accounting manager or a project manager or, a website manager. That wasn't me. I can do anything that I put my mind to. That is true. Mm-hmm. But to feel satisfied and happy with it, even if, I'm solving a lot of problems in a creative way. I thought of myself as a creativity-bound problem solver because I could think outside of traditional solutions because I've never been limited. Mm-hmm. And that's somehow...
Creativity is about connection.
Exactly.
Either within your mind or within other systems.
But somehow the connections started to form when I connected with food. Mm-hmm. And when you're growing up in a South Asian community, it is not typical for people to go into professions that are not, highly professional, educated, degreed, out the wazoo. And, it's like, I did that. I went to school, I went to more school, I went to grad school, and it never resonated for me. And I could do it. And I'm sure I could be very effective in, a desk job.
That word has a connotation when you say it like that. Mm-hmm.
But I'd rather be effective in pursuing happiness and providing happiness. And that's, I think, where my creativity kind of holds foot. And so when I was cooking for my friends at brunch and people started showing up, it was, okay, we need a creative solution to get these people out of my house. And so it's like, for a hospitality-based business that is rooted in being extremely inhospitable.
How can we do this and be like, enjoy, now leave?
Yeah, I'm like, take it and go.
And you're like, wait, I can make that work.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, when you're in these industries and you're among other folks that are in the bar and food world, they do always have some sort of creative idea up their sleeve.
Oh, yeah.
And so I was at the bar that night and I was like, we just had an 8-hour event at my house that was supposed to be 9 people coming over for a 2-hour brunch. And people did not stop showing up. And people knew what to bring when they showed up because they would arrive with very nice bottles of champagne. I'm not going to turn you away for that. No.
That's called a key to the door.
Well, it's got to be good champagne, though.
Right. No Andre.
Yeah. Not all
Andre
keys.
doesn't sponsor the Southern Fork, so it's fine for me to name drop.
It's all, everyone has their something, and it takes all kinds. Mm-hmm. But to get into my house, sometimes it takes some very nice kinds. And so, it became, okay, how do we get this to happen? And I honestly, in my mind, I thought, we're setting up for the 70-person centered college event in April of 2016. I thought maybe 10 people would come up and try food. 5 of my friends would come by, pat me on the head. All right, you did it. It's done. I'm like, all right, I've tried it. It's done. Mm-hmm. That didn't happen.
Right.
That did not happen.
So after that moment, okay, so you have this, elated moment.
Absolutely.
Okay, we have hit on something. I am feeling it. I'm vibing. People are vibing.
I was skeptical as could be after that event, though, because I'm like, okay, it happened once. And, I have been very rooted in figuring out solutions for difficult problems. That comes with a slight side of pessimism. Mm-hmm. And, some folks call it realism, and I'm not fatalistic about things. I'm like, oh, it's never going to work. I'm like, we'll see. And that went beyond my wildest expectation. I was like, all right, fine. There's no way it'll happen again.
As she rolled her eyes to the side.
Exactly. I'm like, there's no way it's going to happen again. Nah, not going to happen. Happen again. happened 4 times in a row. And it was after the 4th pop-up, I looked at my husband and I was like, we're loading a 10 by 10 restaurant into an Acura TSX and driving around at 3 o'clock in the morning looking for places to dispose of our cooking oil. Yeah.
I love this moment.
It is the most weird reverse thievery, because this is the thing. A lot of businesses have these oil receptacles where they get paid for their waste oil.
Yes. Also, grocery stores, if they have a deli.
Exactly. And so instead of disposing your oil in a terrible way, which will affect all of the things, I looked for a way that somebody else could get paid for my oil. So in my head, that was sketchy as hell. So we would be running around and, we'd end service at like 10:30 or midnight some nights, because we wanted to be a way for the service industry to grab something that wasn't out of a paper bag.
Yes.
And that was like satisfying for dinner, that they knew where everything was coming from and they weren't going home and eating ramen over the trash can. I'm not speaking from experience, or am I?
We don't call it a trash can. Yeah. We call it a Slim Jim.
Ooh, I'm going to use that.
Yeah.
Do you have an alternate word for the kitchen sink for when I'm stuffing my face over that?
Oh, no.
Darn.
Sorry.
I figured that out. So it was... I got completely distracted.
Sorry. Slim Jim is great.
Slim Jim
so you were driving around looking for oil.
Driving around looking and trying to figure out where we're going to dispose of all this cooking oil that we fried a bunch of oil, one night and didn't know what to do. And it's still warm. Like, you're driving around in a sedan with a restaurant in the back seat and the trunk, including a 10 by 10 pop-up tent.
So you
walls,
do a rolling
sink.
stop.
Yeah,
you
exactly.
don't want to do a hard stop.
No, because hard stop means 3rd-degree burns.
Right.
We don't want that.
Also, the Acura would never be the same.
Oh, yeah. It had some scars after its tenure. Poor thing.
But also, once you find the oil receptacle.
Exactly. So we're driving around, and then I'm like, we might get arrested for this, because we're running around a closed business in the back area. I'm like, this is sketchy. Like, I would be weirded out if I saw this. So I put a hat on.
That made it better.
Not thinking that, considering that I'm probably the only short, round, and brown pop-up chef in Kentucky, it was like, they're gonna know it's you. So we'll flip open the thing, pour in a bunch of oil, and then run away into the night to do dishes until 4 o'clock in the morning. And obviously, you don't do something that dumb unless you love what you're doing.
Right.
And that was that was the light bulb moment. I'm like, I'm willing to do this. I'm willing to be a sketchy reverse oil thief so that somebody can get paid for my cooking oil that I could only use once for a single pop-up at a bar in the North Side. And I'm like, you know what? Maybe we're on to something. The 4th time we sat there and I'm like, okay, fine. We'll set up regular engagements. Fine.
Okay, universe.
Okay,
you
fine.
win this round.
Yeah, there have been a lot of those light bulb, okay, fine moments.
Well, I don't know if you're like me, but in this conversation, I noticed that, as being a problem solver, I love to make things hard. So as a creative myself, I'll be like, I want to pitch the New Yorker. And I'm going to walk around and stare with my 11s really engaged and look for that story. Right. And I'm like, instead of answering the 2 emails in my inbox, saying, hey, you got anything on blah, 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 blah? We want you to write, if you send us a pitch tomorrow, and I'm like, oh no, I'm working on the New Yorker pitch.
But the thing is,
the obvious is where the creative, that's how you know you go.
Because you know what you're capable of.
Right.
That's what it is. You're not making it difficult to be difficult. You're making it difficult because you don't feel challenged, I think. For me, it was I didn't choose the easy path because there was no path. There hasn't been, when you see folks that are in this industry for years, they've started as garde-manger, they've started as a line cook, they've started as a dishwasher. I started as a tent. I never had a professional kitchen job. I've never had one. I've never been a part of that hierarchy. But what happened is that with this industry, I'm looking at everyone standing at the door, knocking and waiting to get let in, and there's a whole side that hasn't even been touched. The first generation experience is so unique. And there are a lot of us. So if we can speak to that, that gives the kids and the folks that feel like they have no home a home.
Unpack that a little bit for me about that first generation experience. What do you mean specifically?
I've seen it referred to as the diaspora blues. And let's take me for example. I'm in Charleston, South Carolina. I am a Southern gal born in the South. I don't look it from a typical sense of the word, but if I go to Sri Lanka, I look like a typical Sri Lankan, well, 90% of the time, and I don't sound it. So I'm too American for there. I'm too Sri Lankan for here. And at the end of the day, I'm just me. And so I think part of the reason that this has gone as far as it has is that I've just kind of shed that. It's just me now. And, now it's me plus like 2 people, which is kind of amazing.
Yay. Yeah, that's like, and you call everyone and you're like, guess what I did?
Yeah, I'm like, I hired a human.
I hired a human. One day I'm going to have that conversation soon.
It was the most glorious thing because after 6 years of just, how it is when you're in business and you're doing everything on your own.
Yeah.
And
rolling through those stops alone.
Everyone thinks it's easy. Mm-hmm. And it's because if it looks easy, it's probably because I made it hard. Because I saw the challenges, and I saw a lot of challenges. It's everything from acceptance to sourcing to understanding what you're doing to understanding different environments. I mean, I've spent the better part of the last 2 years in 2 different, high-end restaurant kitchens a month. I don't know anybody in there until I go in. And so establishing community, I started off at a business and then I went to a catering kitchen that was doing weekly meals to prep. Mm-hmm. But when I go, I'd show up at Bottega in Alabama 2 years ago for the first time. And I went back last year and it was so nice to see the same faces. But if I go to Crispy Guy in Maine, like I did last week, I only know one of those faces. I want to make sure that I know all of those faces and those names when I go back. Because ultimately, when you're working with people, it's important to make them feel like they're a part of the team because they are. I cannot succeed without everyone around me. And so that I have to focus on being me because that's the thing I know how to do. And I know how to ask for help or for assistance or guidance and all the things that I don't.
Love it. Mm-hmm. So when you're in those kitchens and you have to make a really quick decision about, well, you've already made your menu decisions and you've kind of made those in a vacuum, working with the chef that you're going to pop up with.
We work
or whatever.
With what they're sourcing. We work with their market. We look at their pars. We look at what sells. I mean, it's not just showing up with food.
Right. It's not just like, hey, I want to do this.
Exactly. There's usually about 2 to 3 months of planning involved for every single pop-up.
That's so cool from a diner standpoint. I'm sorry. You thought I was going to be like, oh, that's so hard. I was like, no, it is
fun though.
Because it shows up in these invisible but very tactile underpinnings to event. I do pop-ups all the time. It's the thing that I'm most excited about in American food right now.
Yeah.
It's one of the reasons I'm having you on the show, although brick and mortar is happening. But that idea of a pop-up isn't just showing up and cooking. I've gone to things where it's just bad and
if it's bad, I haven't done my job.
Right. It's just as bad. It's not like, oh, well, I'm going to make 5 excuses because I don't have a restaurant.
There's no excuse.
Right.
You're coming into somebody's house. Number 1, you always take a host gift because you're Southern. Number 2, you get to know everybody's name and you get to know exactly how it works. Number 3, then you put yourself in there. Because if you go in with this attitude of, oh, well, all these people think I'm great and da-da-da-da-da, nobody is going to care. Mm-hmm. I want to get to know the people that I'm working with because ultimately the people that I work with every time, that's the reason I have this, all these honors coming up. That's the reason I have it. I can't do this by myself. And so I have to have the trust in remote teams, even if it's somebody that I've met 4 hours before. But there is a level of respect that comes with that trust. And I have so much respect for every single kitchen that I've worked with. Every single one. Not all pop-ups are created equally. But every single cog has such an important role. And that is crafting how I'm looking at opening something.
What is something, no matter what kitchen that you're working in, food-wise, that you always like to try to put on the menu that is a signature of your work? I know it's
fried
shifts,
chicken
but...
always sneaks on there.
Okay.
It's good.
Let's hear about it.
It's good. It's one of those things where there's
I don't hate a fried chicken.
Hey, I don't either.
I might get a fried chicken tattoo, but
that's a good call.
But also though, just as an aside before we hear more specifics, I am ADHD, apologize.
No worries.
But I've thought about the fried chicken like a little leg, but I have a bee tattoo, and as it has aged, it's become more of a bumblebee than a honeybee. It's a little fluffier.
It's okay.
And so when the
fluffy is good.
So when the leg ages, it might just become a blob.
Chicken thigh?
Yes, but not as recognizable. So anyway.
I mean, you can just call it abstract art. Nobody else has to know.
I could just make it into a dolphin later.
Yeah, just throw a little eyeliner on there, accent it in. I'm like, I just got it touched up. No big deal. It's an abstract artistic chicken by an artist in Charleston, South Carolina.
That's right. That's right. Well, anyway, no one wants to hear about my tattoo dreams. Maybe they do. Maybe there's going to be a whole Reddit on it. But anyway, let's get back to your fried
chicken. So a lot of my menu ideas have come up from creating familiar vehicles for flavors that I've used. And so when we started the pop-up, I was a regular at a boxing gym, which was great because I had essentially an endless test market of people that ate. And they would eat and they would be honest about it. But even if it was terrible, you wouldn't end up with a lot of food left over because everybody got to eat because they're working out so much. Yeah, that didn't happen with me.
You're like, wait, this isn't for me.
I'm like, this isn't for me. No, I still like boxing, but that's a total aside. But a friend of mine was saying, okay, for the first pop-up, I had never made ribs before, like 10 days before the first pop-up. Ribs were on my first menu. Because, of course, why not? I had to make it difficult on myself. Mm-hmm. And he goes, oh man, that pork curry you make would be really great on ribs. I'm like, I've never made ribs before. Let's try this out. 3 or 4 iterations later, we have a curry rib. It's good. And so he goes, have you ever thought about making a fried chicken? Because I love your chicken curry. And, I'm like, that's a really good gateway. Fried chicken is a fantastic gateway because so many cultures have a fried chicken riff.
Yes.
In Sri Lanka, you'll end up with getting like almost like a dry stir-fried deviled chicken.
Ooh, love.
But I wanted something that both evoked that, born in Kentucky, raised in North Carolina. Like I'm from the land of the Colonel, and I'm now also a Colonel with the Colonel. So
also bohong glaze.
Ooh, yes. Bowberry biscuits are life. I do love a bohong glaze.
I'm all about the Cajun filet.
Oh, yes, true.
Only on certain Saturday mornings after certain Friday nights.
Oh, no, I used to go to Bojangles on the way to school. That was my secret breakfast. It was amazing. But you sit there and you think about it, I'm like, okay, fried chicken is a great vehicle because fried chicken belongs to so many different cultural sects. Fried chicken was an entrepreneurship route for women. Fried chicken is friggin' delicious. It's an international phenomenon. I'm like, all right, fine. We're going to try to make a fried chicken. 26 iterations of dry rub and brine, 16 iterations of coating, breading, batter, all the things. And in my little first home's tiny kitchen, we labbed out Sri Lankan fried chicken. And in my fried chicken, I marinated in buttermilk. And now I've actually even made it easier on myself. I have the fried chicken spice at Spicewalla. That is actually just a straight up copy of my blend.
Love it. Also, there's a whole episode with Merwan on Spicewalla.
Because he's the best.
He's wonderful.
He's so much fun. You should go listen to that because he's amazing. Merwan is, that whole crew means so much to me. But it became one of those moments where I'm going from pop-up to pop-up. I'm like, okay, this fried chicken is really successful in Lexington. We would have lines for hours. And it got to the point that, I have done a lot of fairly dumb things because of my lack of knowledge of who people are and what, because everyone's the same to me. I worked in the music industry. I don't care. It's just like, I had a rock star pulling me out of getting stuck in the coats at work. And it's like, my friends were like, did he touch your hand? I'm like, yeah, he pulled me out of the coats. It was weird. It was fine. But I worked in music for so many years that people don't really faze me.
Well, you're also feeding people.
Yeah.
And feeding people is a great
snacks. Everybody's got to eat.
Right?
It's, everyone says music is a universal language. Food is too. Mm-hmm. Food is 100. That's how I talk to people. And it became one of those things where it's just like, okay, this has got to be something that we can standardize. And I've got to be able to make this the same way, whether I'm in Maine or in Los Angeles or South Dakota or the middle of nowhere in Texas. I need to be able to make this in a field kitchen. That's the challenge I set up for myself with the fried chicken.
Because that is what you're doing.
That is all I do.
You're just doing a field kitchen.
I'm doing a field kitchen all day, every day, because I am a masochist now.
So far, we've talked about masochists, tattoos.
On this episode of the Southern Fork.
Putting on a hat.
Yeah.
And next we're going to get into around oil drums.
Yeah, we're going to get into recommendations on CBD creams later. And we're going to just cover all of the sin businesses.
There you go.
Stay tuned.
That's right.
And so the fried chicken, it created lines. It's, John T. Edge stopped by the tent. I didn't know who John T. Edge was. I told him we weren't open yet. It's moments like that where you're like, oh God, you're dumb. But I think it's been refreshing for the food world because I don't know. I didn't know who anyone, now I do. But ultimately, I'm just here to make food and have a good time. Mm-hmm. I have the best job in the world. I get to translate food for people. I get to make snacks. I get to hug folks. I get to learn so much. I get to solve all the problems. I'm never, ever, ever bored. If this is how it's led to it, then it's all been beyond worth it. And if fried chicken can take me across the country, imagine what a fried chicken sandwich will do.
Oh, I know. And I can't wait. I can't wait to find out. So, this is going to be a really good year. It already has been.
Yeah. It's March. Mm-hmm. And I think I've already gotten more pleasant surprises in the last 2 months than I have in years. So it's a whirlwind. And I feel like a lot of my fellow colleagues in the festival are also in this world where the world is waking up.
Yes.
And there's an appetite for many new things because we learned so much about ourselves and each other and how we don't do things and how we can't do things in the pandemic. Mm-hmm. And we became peoples of possibility. All of the surface industry came in and solved a problem. They became essential workers because everyone's got to eat. They put themselves at risk. They put their health of their family, their welfare, their well-being to keep their businesses open, to keep people supplied, to keep communities going, to keep chains between supply farms and restaurants. We saw a massive effort over the last 3 years to really try to push locally. Mm-hmm. And nine times out of 10, when that stuff gets up into the governmental level, it doesn't work out the way that you would want it to for all the small folks.
Yeah.
But now we know of the small folks, and now we know where to go to help, or now we know how to how to make this crazy recipe that we've never heard of from, a first-gen chef that's...
We're a little more resilient, maybe.
We're resilient. The world is still on fire, and we're here.
Right.
We're here celebrating each other. We're here celebrating each other's cuisines. And we live in a community in the food world, whether people realize it or not, that's about celebrating differences.
Yes, absolutely. And I love that.
It's
it's
community.
Is that one of the things making you hungry right now? Is some of those possibilities?
I'm walking around Charleston smelling biscuits and stuff, so I'm pretty perpetually hungry here, but, no, it's not as much a hunger as it was. There was a very interesting mental shift last year because I was invited to cook at the opening, trade party for the Aspen Food and Wine Classic. And I started in a tent 6 years before. That doesn't make sense, honestly. When you look at it on paper, you have a marketing major and, a marketing master's that's decided to cook one day after a semi-successful career in tech with my own business. A lot of people look at it as I am somebody who came in and said, I want to play chef today. It is so much more than that because Tuk Tuk has become a haven for my waywards. I love my waywards because, as as a young kid, and it's something that comes out in how I cook and how I gather. I was excluded a lot, whether it's based on skin, religion, body, face, whatever. If you were different, it wasn't something to be celebrated. Assimilation was a key. Because if you can assimilate into the communities, maybe you can get seen to a point that you can get stature in a community. I gave up on that, and I'm real glad.
Good, yeah.
Because the people that have come through to Tuk Tuk, for a Sri Lankan restaurant, Sri Lanka was a country mired in 25 years of civil war. It is an ethnic civil war. I don't care what kind of Sri Lankan you are. You're going to come and eat, and you're going to leave happy and full. That's my only goal. Everything else is a fringe benefit. Mm-hmm. I keep my eyes on, did they eat? What did they eat? Did they enjoy it? Unlike at my LA dinner, it was the most humbling. I get teary thinking about it, because it's folks that have not had connection to their home in so long, whether it's through, fleeing because of the war or circumstance, or not being able to go back and see family because of COVID or what have you. Everyone has a different set of challenges. You never know what everyone's going through in a day.
Right.
And it's Tuk Tuk has made me hold that grace for people. And so that's why if you are any kind of brown, black, white, green, whatever, if you are gay, straight, trans, pan, whatever, if you're a good human, I have space for you always. And that's the only designation I need.
That answers that second question aspect of your personality too. Good job. What is something quick fire keeping you up at night?
Ooh. I'm trying to figure out the best route on how to arrange my brick and mortar kitchen, because I want to organize it for efficiency, but also not have any bottlenecks. So I've been asking everybody everything lately, because everyone has really good advice. Everybody here has done this before, and they're like, oh, this is easy. This is all you do. And I'm like, no, but I want to do it my way. My way is not necessarily, as we found, the easy way. But at the end of the day, I want a kitchen where people feel valued and also don't feel like they're shut in the dark. The kitchen is such a huge part of what I do. And so I think of ways staffing is considerably on my mind, because I'm like, oh God, how am I going to staff this thing? Because everyone's having a staffing nightmare. And then it's, oh God, is everyone going to like this? Is this going to work? Is this and I just kind of stopped, and I'm like, you know what? This feels right. It's going to work. Just figure out how to make it work. And that's what keeps me up at night.
That's right. Have a peanut butter M&M.
Peanut butter M&Ms are excellent grounding.
Calm down. I feel very grounded right now. We had a pre-snack. It's very helpful.
3 or 4 peanut butter M&Ms can solve a lot of problems.
Well, I would suggest they be involved in your next question. But as a Southern Fork producer, I am so honored to have you with me today. And
meanwhile, I'm geeking out. This is the thing. Is everyone's like, I'm so honored. I'm like, are you kidding me? This is so cool.
Oh, I love it. So one thing I reserve just for Southern Fork guests is this particular question. And this is my magic picnic basket question. And I use this because I think that we all sit around, especially at events like this, and we talk about the best meal we've ever had. I mean, there's a whole TV show on Food Network about that. But it's also called a death row meal. And I used to ask such a question, and my listeners have heard this, but I don't believe in the death penalty. So I started to think,
why should you have to think of a joyful meal at a time of deep suffering for all involved?
Exactly. So food brings me life. And I think that I would like to put together some foods that bring you life. Now, in this magic picnic basket, I can time travel. I can go back and ask somebody to make one more bite of something you would love to have. I can source for you, and I can cook a little bit, though I'm going to request your fried chicken and not mine. I'm not great at fried chicken.
I'll teach you how to make it. It's easy.
I can make you some biscuits, though.
Woo-hoo-hoo. Okay, so we got biscuits.
Okay. And I would just love to bring you some of your favorite things. They don't have to go together. It doesn't have to be a picnic necessarily. One guy last year used all meats. He just was like, I'm going all over the place. So please.
So first we've got peanut butter M&Ms.
Yeah, we're going to go with the 5-pound mixed bag.
We're going 5-pound mixed bag of like the little guys, the peanut guys, and then the peanut butter guys because they are lovely. Mm-hmm. That's just, that's my grounding snack. I get very into like certain foods. I have food phases, but I would definitely want, if I was a picnic with homies that I'd be like, all right, we're going to eat really great things. I want a chacarero from Chacarero in Boston. It's a Chilean sandwich and they bake the bread and it's grilled meats, green beans
on the sandwich.
Tomatoes, Munster. I don't do the avocado spread, but I do the hot sauce spread. Oh. I flew like 8 of those home my first trip back to Boston after COVID.
Of course.
Yeah. I'm like, my husband is screwed if we end up having a baby.
I don't understand that people that don't travel with a soft-sided cooler.
Ooh. I have a really big one. But like, I'm like, honey, if I ever have a baby, you're going to be screwed because my cravings are going to be like, I want this in Boston. I want this here. I want the, like, second thing I want is I had this beautiful macaroni au gratin in Paris and I want like 10 more bites of it because it wasn't like, how typically when people are trying to do fancy macaroni au gratin, they'll add too much truffle or something this was just really beautiful, simple mac and cheese. In like the loveliest way. And I think mac and cheese should be a critical food group in my life. But yeah, I definitely want a bite of that. There's got to be fruit in there. Big fruit fiend between tropical fruits like rambutan. Like, I got rambutan for a shoot and I think I ate almost the entire bag. Weird things like, oh wait, you can travel, can't you? Mm-hmm. I want a bowl of Sri Lankan green olives off the tree with a little bowl of lime juice, hot pepper and salt to dip them in before I bite them. And there needs to be a really good French fry involved. French fries are great. Either French fries or onion rings. Because like my parents are either French fries or onion rings. One loves French fries, one loves the onion
I like them both.
Yeah, I feel like if we could get a good platter of both.
Mm-hmm. We can do both.
And then, keep it simple, keep it rib sticking because there's got to be some good wine involved.
Yeah, are we going to go champagne?
We start with champagne, and then we move into probably either something that's like a fun skin contact thing for something oystery at the beginning. I think we need oysters. Ooh, we need Ichabod flat oysters because they are delicious with our champagne.
Okay.
And we're going with, I want the fun pink moon that I had recently. That was delightful. And, I'm having a good picnic in my head right now. Then we move into the big angry reds, and then we end up with some sort of. I have the very good fortune of being having Stella Parks as a very dear friend, and so when I would make dinner, she would bring dessert, and so she does this goat cheesecake that I think about all the time. Mm-hmm. That's dessert. Okay, I gotta nerd myself out for a moment. So we bonded over very nerdy video games, and there was this long-term joke going that she was going to incorporate it into my birthday cake. And so there was a whole situation about rogues and daggers and like, she made me a cake for my birthday. It was perfect. And it bled raspberry.
Oh.
It bled, like it got into it and it bled raspberry. It's like amazing. And so I want that.
Oh yeah. Cause it's your birthday every day in the picnic basket.
I don't normally celebrate my birthday on my birthday. I just celebrate my birthday all the time.
Mm-hmm. That's great.
It's always a good day for cake.
I agree. Well, it's been such a pleasure. If people want to learn more about Sam Fore and her, tent to brick and mortar transformation, James Beard Award nominee.
Which is insane.
I know.
Hey, but you know what though? This is something that people can take from that. You don't have to do things the same way. I cooked my story and it's resonated. I've been able to cook my story across the country for years.
Yeah.
I want to hear more people. I want to see more people that might not look like they belong in a kitchen or might not be stuck in a kitchen or might not have ever wanted to be in a kitchen, didn't know they wanted to be. That's where I feel at home. Mm-hmm. And so I want to see more of that because if I can do it, y'all can.
And you have more than 315 episodes in the archives to inspire you beyond this one, which was inspirational, my dear. So, if you will like, rate, and subscribe, that is also very helpful. But make sure to go to the Southern Fork because I'm going to have links there.
Awesome.
So that you can get connected to Kentucky and figure out what you're going to bring in your soft-sided cooler back from Tuk Tuk.
Oh, yeah. We'll make it so you can have a cooler pack. Don't worry.
That sounds great. Thanks so much for taking time during this amazing festival.
Cheers. Thank you so much for having me. This has been a treat.
It's lovely. Thanks. Hello and welcome to Talking with My Mouth Full. I'm going to make this brief today, but basically it's a PSA that if you see a pop-up happening in your community, that is a restaurant pop-up or a chef popping up at another restaurant cooking for one night only with a chef friend, you should go. As a food writer in the U.S., I'm going to tell you that pop-ups post-pandemic are the things that I'm most excited about in the hospitality industry. They are creative. Chefs can take risks. They're cooking for one night only. It's kind of, it's just a special event. It's entertainment for you. And lots of times you're going to find different food experiences. You're going to be able to eat the food from chefs that you normally, in restaurants that you normally would not be able to. And there's just a really great sense of community building in a pop-up. In other words, it kind of feels like a chef party. That's my kind of party. So it is a wonderful way to really make your dollars count as a diner. And to support a chef's creativity, chefs can be working out new menu items, like if they're developing a restaurant like Dano and Bethany Hines did when they were working on the menu at Vern's in Charleston, South Carolina. They did a series of pop-ups. They could also be raising money to help fund a restaurant, or maybe not either one of those, just expressing themselves through food. I am a big fan of the pop-up. Thanks so much for listening, and I will be right here next week.
You've been listening to The Southern Fork. I can't wait to bring you more culinary conversations, but in the meantime, I have one question. Are you going to eat all that?